Hello, my name is Karl Soltero, and I'm here to give my impressions of Ernestina Garcia and what she meant to San Jose's Mexican-American and Latino community in terms of civil rights activities. She was instrumental in doing activities involving creating the East Side Health Center on McKee Road. She advocated for decent access to bus and transit for people on the East Side. She monitored the activities of the San Jose Police Department and was instrumental in creating the Community Alert Patrol that would monitor police brutality cases. She was also instrumental in a notorious case involving a judge who made derogatory remarks about Chicanos, and she resolved that. She developed a network of activists just like her, especially a small cadre of female activists. Mujeres de Aztlan, involving Shirley Trevino and other females who were very active. In many ways, I think of her as a warrior. She was a female warrior. Her and people like Rachel Silva and Sofia Mendoza, I feel, were part of our warrior class in the sense that they were selfless promoters and defenders of the culture and making sure our civil rights were going to be taken care of. And she never ceased in her struggle to make sure our civil rights were protected. One of my favorite memories of Ernestina is years later, I didn't really know her that well, but years later as a writer, I worked for approximately 18 years as a newspaper reporter for various bilingual newspapers, and I had a chance to interview her. And I recall that after the interview was done, she asked me if I was still a member of the Raza, of the Confederacion de Raza Unida, and I said, no, I wasn't. My membership had expired years before. And Ernestina basically held me hostage and didn't let me leave until I renewed my membership, and I paid $5 to become a member of Confederacion de Raza Unida. So that's probably my favorite story.
Hello, my name is Sergio Sanchez, Ernestina Garcia's grandson. I lived with her all my life. She basically raised me because my mother was a single mom and she had to work. I kind of knew that my grandma was really heavily political when I used to hear her all the time on the phone, talking with various people of the community. She would talk to Yolanda Reynolds, Jackie Bada, she would talk to Rachel Silva, she would talk to a lot of big names in the community, and I would be there taking her to her meetings, and I would be there to, in the later years when she didn't drive anymore, really, she never really drove, but I remember her and taking her to different rallies or different meetings where she got awards, and pretty much being her chauffeur, actually. So she basically, my earliest memories of her were when she used to babysit me as a little boy. I was always getting into a lot of trouble, and my dad wasn't around, so basically she was the one that would be bringing the hammer, the disciplinarian. So in and out of school, getting in trouble, getting suspended from school, she would always be the one to pick me up when I got suspended and had to go to detention and all that stuff. But she really never really was hard on me. She was really had a soft heart, and she would always encourage me, try to do better in school. And I pretty much wouldn't be here talking to you for this day if she didn't give me that encouragement and give me that help. So.
Sergio, now that you're an adult male person, Sergio, now that you're an adult, what are some of the main things she did that formed who you are?
Well, I think it was her dedication to helping others. Basically, she was night and day, hard working, always writing things down, always coming up with different ideas to help the community, to be active, to inspire others. She was very, very, very passionate, and it's that that inspired me and caused me, is actually giving me the passion. She instilled it within myself, and now I help others as well. So that's something that I'm like following in her footsteps and her legacy. There was a bunch of us actually growing up in the house in 839 Nieves Street in Milpitas. There was probably about 6 people, 7 people at one time growing up in the 4-bed. So my grandfather, his name is Tony Garcia. He actually worked in San Leandro, drove every morning, every day, got up, went to work at J.I. Case. He did that for probably over 30 years before he retired.
What kind of work is that?
He was, I think he was a forklift operator, or he worked in the warehouse in J.I. Case. I'm not too sure in terms of what his title was, but I know he worked in San Leandro. I lived with my mother. My mother's name was Martha Garcia. I also stayed with Doreen Novell at one time, or Doreen Garcia, which is my Nina, and her 2 kids. It was Geraldo Santos and Wahina Santos, and my aunt Diana Garcia was there as well, and it was pretty much, I think that was about, that was about it actually.
Any dogs and cats?
No, actually, my grandma didn't allow dogs. She hated dogs, so she said all the animals, they only belong outside. They don't belong in the house. I guess that's the old school way. So.
You said you drove her around a lot. Do you remember some of the places or meetings that you took her to specifically?
I know I took her to a few La Raza roundtable meetings. I took her to receive awards at the Hayes Mansion. I can't really remember too far what the awards were about, but she ended up receiving an award. I think it may be a Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that. I remember going to when I was a little kid, I remember going to some other meetings I think it was off McKee Road. So in 1969, there was an event that they've had for years, many years, but it was more based, a Spanish event called Fiesta de las Rosas. And my grandma and I believe my aunt Doreen went out there, and I believe my aunt got beat up by the police and arrested. I know it's funny, my grandpa used to always tease my grandma, saying that if she ever got arrested, that he wouldn't bail her out, so she'd have to just stay there. So, but yeah, that's a funny sense of humor that he had. Also, she used to actually, her and the people that she used to run around with, they used to take pictures of police when they'd have instances with Mexicans that were on the street, just in case something went off. They'd take pictures for the police brutality that they used to have back in those days. And there was also an incident too where I guess she stood up to a construction worker and did a citizen's arrest on him. That whole thing was based on because the Chicanos weren't being able to get construction working jobs. They weren't hiring. So they picketed that construction area, and then she ended up going up to him and doing a citizen's arrest because he was making all the fussing and stuff that was inciting a riot, basically. So my grandmother used to actually work with a bunch of different people in this thing called CAMP, Community Alert Patrol, CAP. And what they would do is basically monitor the dealings of, police brutality against not just Hispanics or Latinos or Chicanos, but even blacks and other different races. They would go out there and with Polaroid cameras take pictures and basically monitor their police. That was the way they did it back in the days. They didn't have camera phones or anything like that. She was a a chairperson, a board member of the San Jose Job Corps. So I ended up going there and getting my GED and getting my certification for a hotel cook. And I remember one instant, there was a problem that arose there at the Job Corps, and she had to go down there, and let's just safe to say that she straightened it out. So she was one of those persons that never took anything from anyone. If there was a problem and she wanted to fix it, she would get it done. She stayed on the phone a lot. Basically, that kind of would get on my nerves because as a kid, I wanted to talk to my friends, but she would really be heavily into being on the phone a lot, and whether it's talking to different political figures in the San Jose area. But she told me one time just to be careful about what I said, because she believed that possibly our phones were tapped. So I always had to put that in the back of my head when I was on the phone talking. So. Okay, so in 2005, my aunt, she was giving birth to her second child, her second boy, and she ended up having complications in Livermore Hospital, and she passed on. And just that whole traumatic event of her youngest daughter passing on actually, I guess it accelerated her cancer that she had, and within, I'd have to say, less than 6 months, she ended up passing away. I took care of her. She had hospice, but I would be there with her and take care of her, me and along with other family members. Yeah. And she passed away in I believe it was July in 2000.
My name is Macario Ortiz Franco, and I was born in Teocaltiche, Jalisco, Mexico. Came to the United States on August 28, 1962. It took us 3 days and 3 nights to travel from Guadalajara to Tijuana. Lived in East LA, East Los Angeles for 6 years, and then I came to San Jose. Okay, and when I met all these people, and she would make the calls, she would basically tell them what the issue was. She says, I need for you to be here in the community, in la Confederación de la Raza Unida office, in 1 hour. And they would go, can I make it in 1 hour? I says, okay, make it an hour and a half, no more than 2 hours. And I was looking at her, and I kind of was wondering, that this woman has this much power. And I learned that through the doors of la Confederación de la Raza Unida on McKee and King Road, there was a lot of people from city government. They came at her call. There was a lot of other people in the community. Cesar Chavez came to la Confederación, Cesar Chavez. There was one particular event that where I saw Ernestina as an organizer. I saw Ernestina as a politician. I saw Ernestina as a caring person for the common person, and there's a hospital in Jackson. It's now it's called the San Jose Hospital, but in the older days it was called Alexian Brothers Hospitals, because it was managed by the Alexian Brothers. It's a religious organization, so they wanted to do a radiology expansion. Calls. She would basically tell them what the issue was. She says, I need for you to be here in the community, in la Confederación de la Raza Unida office, in 1 hour. And they would go, can I make it in 1 hour? I says, okay, make it an hour and a half, no more than 2 hours. And I was looking at her, and I kind of was wondering, that this woman has this much power. And I learned that through the doors of la Confederación de la Raza Unida on McKee and King Road, there was a lot of people from city government. They came at her call. A lot of other people in the community. Cesar Chavez came to La Confederación, Cesar Chavez. There was one particular event that where I saw Ernestina as an organizer. I saw Ernestina as a politician. I saw Ernestina as a caring person for the common person, and there's a hospital in Jackson. It's now it's called the San Jose Hospital, but in the older days it was called Alexian Brothers Hospital because it was managed by the Alexian Brothers. It's a religious organization, so they wanted to do a radiology expansion. They wanted to build a radiology unit to do radiology that they didn't have, but they wanted to have it. So when they applied for this to the state asked them that they needed approval from the community or a community organization. So they came to La Confederación, and Ernestina right away asked them for statistics. How many Chicana Latina women do you have working in the hospital? How many Chicano men do you have working in the hospital? And how many bilingual services do you have for the community? And when she found out that they didn't have any of those, then she refused. So then the state sent a fact-finding committee to have some hearings. I remember that very clearly because Anita Duarte was also working with Ernestina at that time. And we went to the hearings, and in the hearings, Frank Fiscalini, that was the superintendent for the Isa Union High School District, had to testify. And he didn't know what to testify about because they didn't have what Ernestina was asking for. And as it turned out, the hospital was forced to make all those changes that Ernestina asked for, and she got Cesar Chavez involved because in the past, Cesar Chavez also had the community, not Cesar Chavez personally, but the community had some issues, and he dealt at one time or another with Alexian Brothers Hospital. So when he was dealing with that, he knew exactly what Ernestina was talking about. So he came to La Confederación to meet with Ernestina. And Ernestina, of course, she had great respect for the man, for Cesar Chavez, and they met. And all the meetings that took place in La Confederación, for the most part, I was there taking notes because I knew that sooner or later she was going to ask me to do some kind of research and fact-finding to go and find answers for questions that she would have. You know, Ernestina Garcia was very religious. Very religious. She was very conscious of her religion. But she gained, in talking to her, she gained a lot of her religiosity, her religious belief, somewhat from the church, but mostly from her Indian past. That was more crucial to how she felt about helping the common man than from religion. And she always called people that were not really cognizant about helping people. She would call them Judas, or the Judas, meaning traitors, the traitors to the cause. And she used that term not only to call just people, but people in general, even other Chicanos or Chicanas that were involved in the movement, in the Chicano movement, that she was. That she thought that they were betraying La Causa. And La Causa was very, very hard for her, at heart, en el corazón. And she was very much involved with women as well, with La Chicana, Las Mujeres de Aztlan. I remember that she called us Las Mujeres de Aztlan. And she was, managing different organizations, and that's why she called it La Confederación de la Raza Unida, because all those organizations came into play.